What if time travel created the universe? We are exploring 30 incredible theories from the world's top physicists and cosmologists about the universe's very first journey through time. By the end, you will see the origin of everything in a completely new light. We will investigate how a paradox could have sparked existence and why the cosmic microwave background might hold a message from the future. What single moment from the past would you most want to witness for yourself? Our first theory proposes that the universe is its own parent. This is the cosmic bootstrap paradox, a mind-bending idea where existence bootstraps itself into being. It tackles the ancient question of the first cause, the very first event that set everything into motion. What if there was no first cause at all, but rather a closed loop of cause and effect with no beginning and no end? In this view, the universe somehow sent the necessary information, or even the fundamental laws of physics, back in time to the moment of its own birth. There was no external creator, just a self-contained, self-creating system. Think of it like a person who travels back in time to hand their younger self the blueprints for a time machine. The younger self then grows up, builds that same machine, and travels back to complete the loop. Where did the blueprints originally come from? They never were created, they just always existed within the loop. The universe might operate on the same principle, a cosmic snake forever eating its own tail. Visualizing this can feel impossible, but picture a Möbius strip, a single twisted surface with only one side, where your finger can travel forever without ever finding a starting point. That could be the true shape of cosmic history, a timeline that curves back on itself so perfectly that the question of what happened before the Big Bang becomes meaningless. There was no before because time itself is part of the loop. This idea completely redefines creation, suggesting our entire reality is a perfect, self-sustaining paradox. This self-creating loop hints at a mechanism so profound it defies our everyday logic. Our second theory, the quantum gravity initiation, suggests the Big Bang was not a beginning in the conventional sense, but a moment of ultimate temporal distortion. At the very instant of creation, the universe was compressed into a single point of infinite density and heat, a state where the known laws of physics simply ceased to function. In this unimaginable environment, the theories of general relativity, which govern the very large, and quantum mechanics, which rule the very small, collide in a storm of contradictions. It is here, in this chaotic forge, that scientists propose the fabric of spacetime itself was twisted into a closed time-like curve. This is not a time machine built from gears and circuits, but a natural tunnel in the geometry of reality, a loop where the end of time connects directly back to its own beginning. Think of drawing a line on a piece of paper, but then curling the paper until the end of the line touches the start, creating a perfect circle with no true starting point. This is the kind of temporal architecture that may have been possible in the universe's first fleeting moments. This era is known as the Planck epoch, a span of time so brief it is almost meaningless, a fraction of a second so small it cannot be measured. During this epoch, time as a linear, forward-marching concept did not yet exist. All of existence was a seething, quantum foam where cause and effect were not yet set in stone. Within this foam, a single, primordial instance of time travel could have occurred. A particle, or perhaps a packet of pure information, could have traveled back along that closed time-like curve, arriving at the moment of its own origin to deliver the critical trigger. This tiny, self-referential nudge could have been the spark that ignited the rapid inflation of the universe, setting into motion the expansion we observe today. The echo of this event might be frozen into the fabric of our cosmos, a permanent signature written into the oldest light we can see. How do we search for evidence of a loop that predates time itself? That ancient signature in the cosmic light might be more than an echo. It could be a deliberate message, a set of instructions left by the original architects of reality. This leads us to our third theory, the multiverse seeding hypothesis. Imagine not one universe, but an infinite tapestry of them, a vast cosmic ocean where bubbles of reality constantly form and pop. According to this idea, our universe was not a random accident. It was intentionally seeded by a time-traveling civilization from a parent universe. Why would an advanced intelligence do such a thing? Their motivation could be rooted in the most fundamental drive of all, survival. Perhaps their own universe was dying, its physical laws unraveling, and the only way to ensure their continued existence was to create a new one, a successor universe. They would need to design it perfectly, crafting its fundamental constants from the very beginning. This would explain one of the greatest mysteries in science, the fine-tuning problem. Why are the laws of physics in our universe so exquisitely balanced to allow for stars, planets, and ultimately, life? If the force of gravity were even slightly stronger, the universe would have collapsed back on itself immediately after the Big Bang. If it was slightly weaker, no galaxies would ever have formed. The same perfect balance is found in the strength of nuclear forces and the mass of elementary particles. It seems as if the universe knew we were coming. The multiverse seeding hypothesis offers a breathtaking answer. A civilization from another reality, perhaps one that had mastered the ultimate technology of time travel, could have sent a seed of information back to the moment of our Big Bang. This seed would have contained the precise blueprint for a life-permitting universe, effectively tuning the cosmic dials to their perfect settings. They would be ensuring that a universe capable of hosting them would come into being, creating a closed loop of causality that guarantees their own origin. Visualize our cosmos as a single bubble in a frothing multiverse. From a neighboring, older bubble, a concentrated beam of light or a packet of pure information travels across the metaphysical void. It arrives at the singularity that is about to become our everything, and in that instant it delivers the genetic code for reality itself. The Big Bang ignites not randomly, but according to a plan written in the future. This transforms our entire cosmic history from a tale of chance into one of profound purpose. Are we the product of a grand cosmic experiment, or are we living in a universe that was quite literally made for us? The answer might be written into the very laws we are trying to decode. This grand design of a seeded universe implies a channel, a bridge through which information could travel. But what physical structure could possibly link two separate realities? The answer might lie in one of the most extreme objects in the cosmos. Our fourth theory proposes that the Big Bang was not an explosion in empty space, but the violent birth of a white hole. To understand a white hole, we must first look at its dark twin, the black hole. A black hole is a region of space where gravity is so intense that nothing, not even light, can escape its pull. It is a cosmic one-way street, a funnel that only draws matter in. A white hole is its theoretical opposite, a region where nothing can ever enter and everything can only spew outward. It is a cosmic exhaust port, a fountain of energy and matter erupting into existence. Now, imagine a black hole in a dying parent universe. As it consumes the last remnants of stars and galaxies, it collapses into an unimaginably dense singularity. But what if that singularity does not simply vanish? According to some physicists, it could punch through the fabric of space-time, connecting to a white hole in a brand new universe. The moment of our Big Bang, in this view, was the very instant that white hole began its explosive output. This is not merely a connection between 2 points in space, but a profound form of time travel for matter and energy. The stuff of our universe, every atom in our bodies and every photon of light, could be the recycled remains of a previous cosmos, having journeyed through a tunnel where the normal flow of time is reversed. Visualize a stunning cosmic transformation. A vast, dark funnel of a black hole spins silently in the void of its parent universe. As it reaches its final state, the narrow funnel at its bottom doesn't end in a point of infinite density, but instead flares open, erupting into a blinding, brilliant geyser of pure energy and nascent matter. This is the white hole revelation, the moment a death in one reality becomes the birth of another. This fits elegantly into a cyclical model of the universe, a great cosmic bounce where universes are born from the deaths of their ancestors in an endless, majestic cycle. Our entire existence could be part of an infinite chain of cosmic respiration, inhaling through a black hole and exhaling through a white hole. If this is true, then we are all, quite literally, stardust from a universe that came before, carrying a legacy older than time itself. Stephen Hawking once proposed a law of physics that seemed to forbid time travel entirely. He called it the chronology protection conjecture, a cosmic rulebook designed to prevent paradoxes from tearing reality apart. But what if this rule was not always in place? What if it was created in a moment of cosmic emergency? Our fifth theory flips Hawking's idea on its head, suggesting the very first time travel event was so destructive it forced the universe to invent the laws of physics to protect itself. Imagine a timeline at the moment of the Big Bang, pristine and full of potential. Then, a single backward loop in time occurs, a particle or a packet of information returning to its own origin. This act creates a self-referential paradox of unimaginable power, a logical storm that threatens to unravel the fabric of causality before it can even properly form. The timeline begins to fracture, like glass developing a web of cracks with different versions of reality competing for existence. In this moment of ultimate crisis, the universe had to make a choice to cease existing or to impose order on the chaos. This is where the concept of cosmic censorship comes into play. Just as a censor might black out sensitive information, the nascent cosmos may have patched over the ruptured point in space-time, hiding the paradoxical singularity behind the permanent laws of physics we know today. The fundamental constants, the speed of light, the strength of gravity, the charge of an electron, these were not arbitrary numbers. They were the emergency patches, the cosmic duct tape applied to hold reality together. They solidified into the unbreakable rules that now prevent such a catastrophic paradox from ever occurring again. The universe learned from its first and only mistake, establishing a stable, linear flow of time as a safeguard. We now live in the orderly reality that resulted from that first and final temporal disaster. Every physical law we rely on, from quantum mechanics to relativity, might be the lasting scar from a wound the universe inflicted upon itself at the very dawn of time. That emergency patchwork of physical laws might have created a stable universe, but what if our entire reality is merely a projection, a cosmic illusion with a secret stored at its edge? This brings us to our sixth theory, the holographic principle's origin. Some of the world's leading physicists propose that our three-dimensional universe, with all its depth and volume, is not the fundamental reality. Instead, it is a hologram, a magnificent projection of information stored on a distant, two-dimensional surface. This surface is the cosmological horizon, the ultimate boundary of the observable universe. Now, imagine that the very first act of time travel was the process of encoding this hologram. In this breathtaking scenario, information from the final state of the universe, from the very end of time, was sent backwards to the moment of the Big Bang. This data, a complete description of cosmic history from start to finish, was then imprinted onto that primordial two-dimensional boundary. Our unfolding reality is simply that information being read out and projected into the three-dimensional space we experience. Think of it like a Blu-ray disc. The disc itself is flat and two-dimensional, but it contains all the information necessary to project a rich, three-dimensional movie onto your screen. Our universe operates on the same principle. The cosmological horizon is the disc, and the expanding cosmos we live in is the movie being played. This transforms the universe into a perfectly self-consistent recording. There are no paradoxes because every event, from the formation of the first star to your own life, is just part of the data that was always there, encoded at the beginning. The illusion of free will and random chance persists because we are inside the projection, experiencing the story as it unfolds moment by moment. Visualize a vast, dark, two-dimensional surface, smooth as liquid obsidian. Suddenly, intricate patterns of light begin to shimmer and swirl upon it, like a trillion lines of cosmic code. From this shimmering surface, a three-dimensional universe erupts into being, not as an explosion of matter, but as a projection of light and information. Galaxies, stars, and planets crystallize out of the code, their entire futures already written into the foundational layer. This means the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously within that stored data. We are not traveling through time so much as we are a part of a timeless, holographic structure. The universe is not becoming, it simply is a frozen, eternal block where the first time travel event was the act of its own creation. That frozen, timeless block of a holographic universe is one thing, but what if the observer itself is the ultimate cosmic accident? The universe could be filled with ghosts, not of the dead, but of minds that never lived. This is the chilling premise of the Boltzmann brain. Picture a universe that has drifted into an almost perfect state of equilibrium, a vast, dark, and near-empty void where almost nothing happens for eternity. In such a placid sea, random quantum fluctuations can still occur. Given enough time, an unimaginable amount of time, the random jostling of particles could theoretically assemble a fully formed, conscious brain, complete with all its memories and senses. This brain would simply pop into existence, floating in the void, utterly alone. Now, take this unsettling idea and project it to the absolute extreme. What if the very first event, what we perceive as the Big Bang, was not the beginning of a cosmos, but the spontaneous formation of a single, primordial Boltzmann brain at the dawn of time? This entity would awaken into consciousness with a complete, detailed, and utterly false memory of an entire cosmic history that never actually occurred. Its first thought would be a memory of a singularity, of an explosion of light, of galaxies forming and stars burning. It would recall a past that was pure illusion, a narrative implanted into its consciousness at the moment of its birth. In this scenario, our entire timeline, from the first picosecond to this very moment, is just that false memory playing out in a mind that has always been completely alone in an empty universe. The first time travel was not a physical journey, but a logical one, where a non-existent past was instantly projected into a conscious present, creating the illusion of a history. The philosophical implications are staggering. How could we ever know if our rich and complex universe is real, or merely the detailed fantasy of a lone, disembodied brain that formed a second ago? Every memory you have, every person you love, every historical event you learned about in school could be nothing more than an elaborate fabrication, a backstory for a consciousness that has no past. This makes our search for cosmic origins profoundly strange. We are not archaeologists digging through the remnants of a real past, but rather, we are characters in a story, desperately searching for clues to a plot that was written for us at the moment of our creation. The universe might not have a true history at all, just a very convincing prologue. The unsettling possibility of a Boltzmann brain dissolves into a far more orderly cosmic principle. There is a rule that some physicists believe governs all of time travel, a law of narrative consistency for reality itself. This is the Novikov self-consistency principle. It states with elegant finality that any actions taken by a time traveler were always a part of history. There can be no paradoxes because the timeline is a single, unchangeable story. If you travel to the past, you cannot change it. Your presence there and the things you do are simply what always happened. Now, apply this profound idea to the very first moment. The universe's inaugural journey through time was not a chaotic event that broke causality. It was a perfectly self-consistent loop, a circle of cause and effect so flawless that the beginning and the end are the same point. The universe exists because a time traveler from its own future ensured it existed, and that act of ensuring was always an inseparable part of the cosmic timeline. There was no first version of events without this intervention. The loop simply is and always has been. To grasp this, consider a person who travels back in time and through a series of events becomes their own direct ancestor. Your own existence is proof that your journey back in time was always destined to happen. You are always there in your family's past, ensuring your own birth, which in turn leads to your journey back. It is a closed, self-fulfilling prophecy. On a cosmic scale, this means a particle, a law, or a blueprint for reality made that first journey. It arrived at the singularity and provided the necessary spark for the Big Bang, an event that would eventually lead to the creation of that very same particle, law, or blueprint, which would then complete the loop by traveling back. Visualize a shimmering, golden ring floating in the void with no discernible start or end. Every point on the ring is both the cause and the effect of every other point. This is the architecture of our existence, a perfect, unbreakable loop of events where the universe is both the creator and the creation, forever bound by its own consistent logic. The question of what came first, the universe or the time traveler, becomes as meaningless as asking which came first, the chicken or the egg, when both are locked in an eternal, self-creating dance. That perfect, self-consistent loop of causality requires a specific kind of architecture within the fabric of reality. The initial singularity of the Big Bang was perhaps not a point in space, but a knot in space-time itself, a place where a closed time-like curve formed. In those first fleeting moments, time did not march forward. It curled back on itself, creating a tiny, primordial loop where the future and the past were one and the same. Within this cosmic knot, the universe was both its own cause and its own effect, a perfect, self-referential system. The laws of physics were not yet fixed, and the familiar arrow of time had not yet been fired. It was a period of pure potential, where influence could travel backwards just as easily as forwards, allowing the final state of the universe to directly shape its own birth. Visualize this not as an explosion, but as a shimmering, intricate braid of light and energy, endlessly cycling upon itself. Every point in this braid is connected to every other point with no true beginning or end. Then something monumental happened. The universe began to expand, and with that rapid inflation, the knot began to unravel. The tight, closed curve of time was stretched into a straight line. The loop was broken, and the arrow of time was born, flying in a single, irreversible direction from that moment forward. The act of creation was the act of linearizing time, transforming a timeless loop into the history we now inhabit. The echoes of that first loop might still be detectable. The uniform temperature of the cosmic microwave background, the oldest light in the universe, could be the signature of that initial period where everything was in perfect causal contact with itself. We are living in the aftermath of a broken circle, traveling along the straight line that was once a perfect cosmic knot. A single backward glance could have crystallized the entire cosmos. Our 10th theory explores the quantum observer effect, proposing that the very first act in the universe was not a physical event, but an act of observation directed from the future. In the bizarre world of quantum mechanics, a particle exists in a blurry state of all possible positions, a superposition of potentialities until it is observed. The simple act of looking at it forces it to choose a single, definite state. Now, take this peculiar rule and project it onto the grandest scale imaginable. At the moment of the Big Bang, the entire universe was in a state of ultimate superposition, a quantum foam where every possible history and every possible set of physical laws coexisted in a chaotic haze. There was no single past, only a shimmering ocean of what-ifs. Then, something observed it. This was not necessarily a conscious being, but perhaps a fundamental quantum phenomenon, a self-referential loop where the future state of the universe sent a wave of information backward through time. This retroactive observation collapsed the universal wave function. It forced the quantum foam to make a choice, selecting one specific timeline from the infinite possibilities and etching it into the stone of reality. This was the first time travel, a journey not of matter but of information where a future outcome reached back and defined its own cause. The past became solid only because the future was looking at it. This idea deeply entwines with one of the most debated questions in physics, the role of consciousness itself. Does the universe require a mind to observe it in order to exist? In this scenario, the cosmos achieved a form of self-awareness where its own final state acted as the observer that gave it a definite beginning. Picture the scene in reverse. A blurry, undefined cloud of potential begins to shimmer. From the future, a wave of influence ripples backward, a single, focused point of observation traveling up the timeline. As it reaches the dawn of time, the cloud instantly crystallizes, its infinite possibilities snapping into one concrete history of expanding galaxies and spinning planets. The entire cosmic story was selected in that single, retroactive moment. We are living in the timeline that was chosen, the one reality that was observed into being from its own future. That quantum observation from the future selected a single reality from the foam of possibilities. But what if our universe was not born from a quantum fluctuation, but from a shattering impact in a higher dimension? Our 11th theory takes us into the realm of the ekpyrotic universe, a model where existence began with a collision of cosmic proportions. The name itself comes from the ancient Greek word for conflagration, a great fire. In this view, our three-dimensional universe is not all there is. We exist on a vast three-dimensional membrane or brain, floating within a higher dimensional space known as the bulk. Imagine our universe as an immense flat sheet of reality, one of many such sheets drifting in an incomprehensible void. The Big Bang was not an explosion from a point, but the aftermath of a collision between our brain and another parallel brain. This was not a gentle bump. It was a cataclysmic encounter, releasing an unimaginable firestorm of energy that flooded our brain with the hot, dense plasma that would eventually coalesce into every galaxy, star, and planet we see today. Now consider the timing of this event. For such a collision to produce a universe as finely tuned as our own, it had to occur with incredible precision. The angle, the speed, the energy, all had to be just right. This perfection suggests the collision was not a random accident. What if it was a deliberate reset? A time-traveling entity or a natural law acting across cosmic cycles could have orchestrated the impact. Information about a previous universe, its structure, its physical constants, and perhaps even its history could have been encoded and sent across the dimensional boundary. This data would then guide the collision, ensuring the new universe that emerged was a near-perfect replica of the old one, or perhaps an improved version. The transfer of this cosmic blueprint from the end of one cycle to the beginning of the next is a profound form of time travel, a journey across the boundary of existence itself. Picture two immense, shimmering membranes, each a whole universe, moving slowly through a dark, higher dimensional space. They are drawn together by an unseen force, their surfaces rippling with pent-up energy. As they meet, there is no sound but a silent, blinding flash of light that erupts along the entire plane of contact. From this fiery interface, our entire cosmos is born. The echo of that primordial crash might still be visible in the large-scale structures of the universe, a faint imprint in the distribution of galaxies. This transforms the Big Bang from a beginning into a transition, a moment of rebirth in an endless cycle of cosmic collisions. Our existence may be the latest chapter in an infinite series, each one initiated by a message from the end of time. The universe appears perfectly tailored for our existence, but this fine-tuning may not be a cosmic coincidence. It could be the ultimate engineering project. The strong anthropic principle suggests the universe's constants are fine-tuned for life because a future, intelligent civilization used time travel to go back and adjust the parameters at the moment of the Big Bang. Imagine a society that has reached the pinnacle of knowledge, mastering not only space but time itself. They discover a chilling truth. Their universe is slowly dying, its fundamental forces weakening over eons. To survive, they must reboot existence, creating a new cosmos capable of giving rise to them once more. They design a plan of breathtaking audacity, constructing a colossal machine that can punch a hole through time. They focus its energy on the singularity from which their own universe was born. They send a carefully calibrated signal back to the beginning, a set of instructions encoded into the fabric of the Big Bang itself. This signal fine-tunes the cosmic dials, setting the strength of gravity, the mass of the electron, and the force of nuclear interactions to the exact values needed for stars to form, for planets to coalesce, and for life to eventually evolve. This act creates an unbreakable logical loop. They exist because they engineered the universe that allowed them to exist. Their journey into the past was not an intervention, but the very reason there is a past to intervene in at all. This idea blurs the line between science and theology, presenting a creator that is not a supernatural deity, but our own distant descendants. They are not gods, but beings who faced extinction and used the laws of physics to ensure their own genesis. The theological ramifications are profound, suggesting a form of self-creation where humanity, or its future evolution, becomes the divine architect of its own reality. Scientifically, it offers a potential solution to the fine-tuning problem, replacing chance with a causal loop. We look up at the stars not as random products of a blind universe, but as the intended outcome of a project begun by our own children, 1 billion years from now. Are we the ancestors of the universe's original designer? The answer might be written into the very atoms of our bodies. Black holes present a terrifying riddle for physics. They are regions where gravity is so strong that anything crossing their event horizon is lost forever, or so we once thought. This includes information, the fundamental quantum data that describes every particle. According to the rules of quantum mechanics, information can never be truly destroyed. It can be scrambled, but it must, in principle, be recoverable. This creates the black hole information paradox, a fundamental clash between general relativity and quantum theory. How can a black hole both destroy information forever and also obey the sacred laws of quantum mechanics? Our 13th theory offers a radical solution, one that connects this paradox directly to the origin of everything. It proposes that information is never lost because it is granted a unique privilege, the ability to travel backward in time. The very first journey through time might have been the universe establishing this rule, a cosmic failsafe to ensure its own logical consistency from the very first moment. In this view, when matter falls into a black hole and approaches the singularity, its quantum information does not vanish into nothingness. Instead, it escapes its doomed fate by traveling backwards along the timeline. It journeys to the one place where a singularity exists, the Big Bang, and is recycled back into the cosmic system. This process preserves what physicists call unitarity, the fundamental principle that the sum of all probabilities in a quantum system must always equal 1. Unitarity is the mathematical expression of cosmic logic, the rule that keeps reality consistent and predictable. If information is lost in black holes, unitarity is violated, and the logical foundation of the universe crumbles. The first time travel event was the universe preventing this collapse before it could even happen. It was a preemptive strike against paradox, allowing quantum information to loop from the end of time back to the beginning, guaranteeing that the cosmic books would always be balanced. Visualize the universe not as a straight line, but as a vast, luminous tapestry. Within this tapestry, black holes are not endpoints but portals. From their dark hearts, brilliant strands of quantum information, like threads of pure light, do not move forward into oblivion. Instead, they weave backward, traveling through the fabric of space-time to re-enter the cosmic story at its very first chapter. This endless, self-healing loop of data ensures that no bit of information is ever truly lost, only eternally recycled. Our existence may depend on this primordial act of temporal bookkeeping, a rule written into the cosmos to ensure that its own story could be told without any logical gaps from the very first word. Our universe might be perched on a precarious ledge, a state of temporary stability that could collapse at any moment. This is the concept of the false vacuum, a theory suggesting that what we perceive as empty space is not truly empty, nor is it truly stable. It exists in a metastable state, like a ball resting in a small dip on the side of a vast, sloping hill. It seems stable for now, but a nudge could send it rolling down into the true valley below, a state of lower energy and entirely different physical laws. That catastrophic transition would not be a gentle slide. It would manifest as a bubble of true vacuum, expanding outward at the speed of light. From the inside, this bubble would be a new universe with its own fundamental constants, utterly erasing the old reality in its path. Now consider the trigger for such an event. What if that nudge did not come from a random quantum fluctuation, but was a deliberate signal, a message sent back through time? A civilization in a parent universe, realizing their cosmos was trapped in a doomed false vacuum, could have engineered the ultimate escape plan. They would calculate the precise parameters needed to create a stable, life-friendly universe within the new bubble. Then, using a form of time travel, they would send those instructions a single, focused packet of energy or information, back to the moment before their own cosmic decay began. This signal would arrive at the exact point in space-time to trigger the false vacuum decay, not as a random disaster, but as a controlled initiation. The birth of our universe in this scenario was an act of cosmic salvation. The Big Bang was not an explosion from nothing, but the fiery frontier of a rescue bubble, intentionally ignited to preserve the continuity of existence. Visualize the parent universe as a vast, calm, and featureless plane, a sea of false vacuum. Suddenly, a single point begins to shimmer, responding to a command from the future. A bubble erupts not with chaotic violence, but with purposeful energy, its walls expanding at light speed as it rewrites the very rules of reality in its wake. Inside this bubble, our cosmos crystallizes according to the blueprint sent from its dying predecessor. This transforms our origin from a random quantum event into a profound act of temporal engineering. We may exist because a civilization we will never know looked into the abyss of their own annihilation and chose to create a future for themselves, a future that paradoxically became their own past. That shimmering tunnel of information might have been a physical structure woven into the fabric of reality itself. A primordial wormhole could have served as the universe's first time machine, a natural bridge connecting the moment of creation to its own immediate future. Wormholes are theoretical passages through space-time, often visualized as a tunnel with two mouths connecting distant points. But if you curve this tunnel enough, it could also connect 2 points in time. At the instant of the Big Bang, the extreme density of the cosmos could have forged such a structure spontaneously, a fleeting gateway linking the universe's infancy to its adolescence. The first travelers through this tunnel would not have been astronauts, but the most fundamental components of existence. Particles of matter, or perhaps the forces that govern them, could have traversed this wormhole. Imagine a single particle emerging from the fiery chaos of the singularity. Instead of following the slow, linear path of the expanding universe, it enters one mouth of the wormhole and instantly exits from the other mouth, finding itself in a slightly older, slightly cooler cosmos. This journey, this tiny hop through a space-time shortcut, could have delivered critical information. the particle might have carried data about the future state of the universe back to the past, effectively telling the infant cosmos how to evolve. This would create a self-consistent loop where the future directly influenced the conditions of its own birth, setting the initial parameters for everything that followed. But such a delicate structure could not last. The immense energy and violent inflation of the early universe would have made this primordial wormhole incredibly unstable. It likely existed for only a fleeting fraction of a second before collapsing under the intense gravitational pressures. Its death throes, however, may have left a permanent scar on the cosmos. The rapid collapse would have released a burst of energy, creating ripples in the primordial plasma. These ripples could have been imprinted onto the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang. Astronomers scan this ancient light for subtle anomalies, strange patterns in temperature that cannot be explained by standard cosmology. One of these mysterious signatures could be the faint, fossilized echo of that first wormhole snapping shut, a ghostly signature of the tunnel that once bridged the beginning of time with its own future. Every digital world begins with a single command. Our 16th theory takes the simulation hypothesis to its logical extreme, proposing that the Big Bang was not a physical event, but the boot-up sequence for a cosmic computer. In this view, our universe is an unimaginably complex simulation, and the very first instance of time travel was nothing more than the initial execution of code that defined the past. The entire timeline from the first star to this very moment was loaded into memory as a pre-rendered data set the instant the program began to run. There was no fiery singularity, only the cold, logical initiation of a constructed narrative. The fine-tuning of the universe's constants is not a mystery, but simply the chosen settings of the simulation's parameters, set by the programmers to see what kind of reality would emerge. This makes our search for origins a kind of digital archaeology, where we are not uncovering a real past, but reverse engineering the source code of our own existence. We are living inside a story whose prologue was written after the fact. Visualize the dawn of time not as an explosion, but as a dark, empty screen. Suddenly, lines of luminous green code begin to scroll at an impossible speed. These are not lines of text, but the fundamental laws of physics themselves, the programming instructions for gravity, light, and matter. As the code executes, the void begins to pixelate, with brilliant points of light resolving into swirling galaxies and nebulae, all generated from the underlying data. The cosmic microwave background radiation we measure today could be the residual thermal noise from the simulation's initial processing power, the hum of the universe's central processing unit. This idea is philosophically profound because it renders the question of a first cause obsolete. The programmers, whoever or whatever they may be, exist outside of our space-time. Our time is just a variable in their program, and they can easily set it to any value, creating the illusion of a 14 billion-year history in an instant. This theory is ultimately untestable from within the simulation, as any evidence we uncover would itself be part of the programmed reality. How could we ever prove we are in a box when the very tools we use to investigate are also inside it? The universe's first journey through time becomes a trivial function call, a line of code that defined the arrow of time before the first frame was ever drawn. A pendulum that swings forever without any push seems to defy physics, yet such a thing may have been the universe's first heartbeat. Our 17th theory introduces the time crystal, a structure that repeats not only in space like a diamond but also in time. Its pattern oscillates between states perpetually, a clock that never needs winding. Now envision the cosmos in its first impossible moment as a single primordial time crystal. This was not a crystal of matter, but a crystal of space-time itself, locked in a perfect, silent rhythm. Its very first oscillation, the initial switch from one state to another, was the universe's inaugural journey through time. This was not travel along a line, but a fundamental pulse within a loop, the first tick of a clock whose talk was its own beginning. This eternal rhythm could not hold. The perfect symmetry of the crystal's oscillation was destined to break. Just as a perfectly balanced pencil will eventually tip over, the cosmic time crystal faltered. That first critical break in symmetry released an immense burst of energy, and in that moment the looping dance of time unfurled into the linear expansion of space. The arrow of time was born from a broken cycle. What we perceive as the relentless forward march of history may be the cosmic debris from that first shattered oscillation. Visualize a solitary geometric structure floating in the absolute void, its facets shimmering with an internal light. It pulses, a slow, majestic beat that defines its existence. With each pulse, the entire structure subtly changes its form, cycling between two perfect states. Then, on one particular oscillation, the rhythm stutters. A flaw ripples through the perfect lattice, and instead of cycling back perfectly, the crystal structure begins to stretch and expand, transforming its rhythmic time into flowing space. The universe we inhabit is the aftermath of that single, broken beat, the expanding echo of a rhythm that once was perfectly closed. We are living inside the lingering vibration of the first and only time crystal. Two particles can be linked in such a way that their fates are forever intertwined, a phenomenon Einstein himself called spooky action at a distance. This is quantum entanglement, where measuring the state of one particle instantly determines the state of its partner, no matter how many light years separate them. The connection is instantaneous, bypassing the speed of light, and it suggests a layer of reality where distance is an illusion. Now push this idea to its ultimate limit. What if the very first particles born in the Big Bang were entangled not just across space, but across time itself? The first meaningful act in the cosmos may not have been a force or an explosion, but a single quantum whisper between two particles, one existing in the nascent universe and the other in its own future. This would be a non-local connection through time, a fundamental, built-in form of time travel where cause and effect are no longer a straight line. Visualize the first moment of creation as a dark, empty canvas. Suddenly, two brilliant points of light flicker into existence. They do not simply glow, they pulse in perfect, instantaneous harmony. A timeline stretches between them, but the connection is not a line you can follow. It is a direct bridge, a thread of pure influence that ignores the flow of time. When one particle spins, its twin, located far in the future, spins in response, and this response echoes backward to reinforce the original spin. This creates a stable, self-reinforcing loop of information, a closed circuit of causality that needed no first cause. The entire web of cause and effect that we take for granted could have crystallized from a vast network of these primordial, temporal entanglements. Each interaction was a stitch in the fabric of reality, weaving together the past, present, and future into a single, cohesive whole. This theory redefines what we mean by the present moment. Your own sense of a linear now could be an emergent property, a collective result of countless quantum events that are, at their core, timeless. The universe did not invent time travel, it was born from it, its very first heartbeat a synchronized pulse echoing across the ages. The smooth expansion of our universe hides a secret period of unimaginable acceleration. For a fleeting fraction of a second, the cosmos expanded faster than the speed of light, a process called inflation that stretched a subatomic speck into a macroscopic universe. This inflationary epoch solved many cosmic puzzles, but it also presents its own profound mystery. Why did inflation start with such perfect conditions, and why did it stop so precisely to create a universe ripe for galaxies and life? The answer might be that inflation was not a random event, but a carefully managed process. This theory proposes that the inflaton field, the energy field that drove this hyper-expansion, was guided by a feedback signal from the future. Information about the final structure of the universe, the vast web of galaxies and cosmic voids, was sent backward through time to the very first moments of inflation. This data acted as a cosmic control signal, fine-tuning the inflatoned field's behavior to ensure its outcome was stable and complex. Think of a master engineer adjusting a sensitive piece of machinery in real time, watching the output on a monitor and making tiny, precise tweaks to the input to get the desired result. In this case, the engineer is the universe itself, and the monitor is displaying the final state of the cosmos billions of years in the future. The feedback loop is a closed circuit of causality, where the end product directly shapes the initial conditions that gave it birth. Visualize the universe in its first moment of rapid expansion, a blistering fireball of energy stretching space itself. Suddenly, streams of data, like ethereal blue light, begin to flow backward against the current of time. These streams carry the precise map of the cosmic web, the blueprint for every galaxy cluster and supervoid that will ever exist. They merge with the inflatoned field at the moment of its birth, whispering instructions that calibrate its energy and determine exactly when it should decay into the hot plasma of the Big Bang. This single, self-referential act of time travel ensured that the inflationary phase produced just the right amount of density fluctuations, the seeds for all future structure. Without this retroactive guidance, inflation might have ended too quickly, leaving a barren, empty cosmos, or too late, resulting in a chaotic, over-dense universe that would immediately collapse back into a black hole. The delicate balance we observe, the golden mean that allows for our existence, could be the product of a universe that learned how to build itself by looking at the final blueprint. The grandfather paradox is the ultimate thought experiment in time travel, a logical trap that seems to forbid any journey to the past. What happens if you travel back and prevent your own grandfather from meeting your grandmother? You would never be born, so you could never travel back to commit the act, creating an impossible loop of cause and effect. It is a concept that appears to shatter the very possibility of changing history. But what if our universe exists precisely because this paradox already happened? Theory 20 proposes that the cosmos itself is the ultimate resolution to a primordial grandfather paradox. The very first journey through time was an act of cosmic self-destruction so profound it shattered a single reality into countless fragments. In the original, now-lost timeline, a traveler or a fundamental particle performed an act that erased its own reason for being. This created a logical singularity, a point of infinite contradiction that the fabric of reality could not contain. That timeline did not simply vanish, it exploded, and from its ashes, new timelines blossomed like branches from a shattered tree trunk. Each new branch represented a consistent, paradox-free version of events. Our universe is one of those branches, a stable reality that formed with the grandfather paradox already resolved at its foundation. The moment we perceive as the Big Bang was not a beginning from nothing, but the violent birth of a new, self-consistent branch in an infinite multiverse. Visualize a single, brilliant thread of light representing the original timeline. At one point, a loop forms where the end of the thread tries to circle back and cut itself. The moment the loop tightens, the entire thread shatters into a billion glittering fragments. Each fragment is a new, straight thread, a new universe where that fatal loop never occurred. In one branch, the time traveler arrived but failed to stop the meeting. In another, they never went back at all. In our branch, the conditions were set so that such a paradox could never logically occur. This means every universe in the multiverse is a story where the plot makes sense. A reality where cause and effect flow in an unbroken, logical line precisely because the one reality where they didn't was erased at the dawn of everything. We are not living in the original cosmos, we are living in its most successful escape clause. Dark energy is the greatest unsolved puzzle in modern cosmology. We know it makes up most of the universe's content, and we know it is causing the expansion of space to accelerate. Yet its fundamental nature remains completely unknown. This mysterious force could be the lingering echo of the universe's first and only journey through time. The immense energy required to send a signal or a particle back to the moment of creation had to come from somewhere. That energy was not destroyed, it was converted, and its exhaust is what we now observe as dark energy, permeating all of space and pushing galaxies apart. Think of a colossal rocket engine firing a single, concentrated blast into the past. The engine itself represents the future universe, and the beam is the time-traveling information. When that beam is launched, the recoil, the leftover energy from that impossible act, spreads out as a diffuse, repulsive force. This force has been driving the cosmic expansion ever since, a permanent reminder of that primordial event. This idea offers a potential solution to the cosmological constant problem, one of the most frustrating discrepancies in physics. When theorists calculate the expected energy of empty space from quantum fields, the number they get is astronomically large, over 120 orders of magnitude greater than the tiny value we actually observe for dark energy. It is the worst prediction in the history of science. But if dark energy is not a fundamental property of the vacuum, but the specific, finite residue of a one-time temporal event, its incredibly small value suddenly makes sense. It is not a fundamental constant, but a historical artifact, a quantity of fuel that was mostly spent in a single, glorious moment. Visualize the cosmos not as a void, but as the interior of a vast, silent engine. At the far end of time, the engine ignites, channeling all its power into a single, luminous beam that lances backward through the ages. As the beam vanishes into the past, a wave of golden exhaust erupts from the point of ignition, flooding the entire universe with a gentle but relentless pressure that stretches the fabric of spacetime itself. This is the origin of dark energy, the cosmic recoil from a shot fired across time. We are living in the aftermath of that one-time event, riding a wave of expansion that began not with the Big Bang, but with the universe's first and final attempt to rewrite its own origin. Before time itself had settled into a steady rhythm, there was a single, unimaginably brief moment when the cosmos was a perfect, undivided whole. This was the Planck epoch, a sliver of time so small it defies human comprehension. Within this fleeting instant, the universe existed at the Planck scale, a realm of such extreme energy and temperature that the four fundamental forces of nature, gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces were fused into one single, unified superforce. In this chaotic forge, the very concepts of past, present, and future lost all meaning. There was no arrow of time, only a seething, turbulent ocean of potential where every point in time was in direct contact with every other point. This was the universe's first and most fundamental conversation, a state where particles could naturally communicate with their own future and past states. The distinction between cause and effect was blurred into irrelevance. A particle vibrating in this primeval foam was not just influencing its immediate neighbors, it was effectively whispering to its own future self, and that future self was whispering back. This continuous, self-referential dialogue across the timeline is what ultimately crystallized into the stable laws of physics we observe today. The strength of gravity, the charge of an electron, the very rules of quantum mechanics, all may have been negotiated during this primordial negotiation between an object and its own destiny. To understand the structure of this strange epoch, we can look to loop quantum gravity, a theory that suggests spacetime itself is not smooth and continuous, but woven from a fabric of tiny, discrete loops. At the Planck scale, this fabric would have been a frenetic, tangled network of these vibrating loops. Visualize this not as empty space, but as a hyper-dense, effervescent foam, with trillions upon trillions of shimmering, interconnected rings constantly forming, breaking, and reconnecting. Within this chaotic dance, a loop could easily twist back and connect to its own past state, creating a natural, microscopic time machine. information about a future configuration could flow seamlessly along these loops into the past, creating a perfect feedback system that selected for stability. The universe was not born with its laws pre-written. It wrote them itself through an endless series of these tiny, closed time-like conversations, each one a vote for a consistent and coherent reality. The cosmos we inhabit is the stable consensus that finally emerged from that deafening quantum roar. Consciousness might not be a latecomer in the cosmos, but its very architect. This is the biocentric universe view, a theory that turns our understanding of reality inside out. It proposes that life and consciousness are not accidental products of the universe, they are the very reason for its existence. In this radical perspective, the physical world only takes on a definite form when it is observed by a conscious mind. Without a perceiver, reality remains a blur of overlapping possibilities, a quantum potential waiting to be crystallized. Apply this to the beginning of everything and a stunning possibility emerges. The first journey through time was not a physical voyage, but the act of perception itself. Before consciousness, there was no linear time, only a state of pure, timeless potential. Then, the first spark of awareness flickered into being. This could have been a universal proto-consciousness, a single, nascent point of observation. Its very first act was to look out upon the chaotic quantum foam, and by perceiving it, force it to choose a single, coherent state. This was the moment the arrow of time was born, forged by the act of observation. The universe made its first journey from a state of timelessness into a flowing, linear history, all because something was there to witness it. This idea is rooted in idealist philosophy, which argues that reality is fundamentally mental and spiritual, with the physical world being a manifestation of consciousness. The challenge, of course, is profound. How could consciousness exist before a physical brain to host it? Proponents suggest that consciousness is a fundamental property of the cosmos, like space and time, not merely a byproduct of complex neural computation. The universe did not create consciousness. Consciousness created the universe as a medium for its own expression. Visualize the dawn of existence not as a fireball, but as an infinite, shimmering haze of what-ifs, a silent, undifferentiated fog of pure potential. There is no past, no future, only an eternal now. Then, from within the haze, a single point of focus emerges. It is not an eye of flesh, but an eye of mind, a locus of pure awareness. As this proto-consciousness awakens, its gaze sweeps across the void. Where it looks, the fog instantly recedes, solidifying into the definite, structured timeline of cosmic history. Stars ignite, galaxies spiral, and planets form along the path of its perception. We are not just living in a universe that created us, we are the universe itself, slowly awakening to its own existence, forever traveling along the timeline that our collective observation first carved out of the infinite. Two particles linked by quantum entanglement seem to share a single existence, no matter the distance. This spooky connection, known as EPR, might be far more than a simple link. The ER equals EPR conjecture proposes a breathtaking physical reality behind this phenomenon. It suggests that every pair of entangled particles is actually connected by a microscopic wormhole, an Einstein-Rosen bridge. These are not tunnels through space you could fly a ship through, but fundamental bridges in the fabric of spacetime itself. At the universe's inception, this idea transforms our entire conception of the beginning. The cosmos was not a collection of separate points flying apart. It was a single, massively entangled whole, a quantum system where every particle was connected to every other particle through a complex, shimmering web of these primordial wormholes. This was a state of ultimate interconnectedness where the entire universe was stitched together from the inside. In such a state, the very idea of location breaks down. A particle here was, in a very real sense, also a particle over there, because a tiny bridge in space-time directly connected them. This architecture allowed for a profound form of instantaneous travel. Information or influence could pass through these wormholes, bypassing the linear flow of time we experience today. This was the universe's first and most fundamental form of time travel, a built-in network where cause and effect could loop back on themselves. Visualize the moment of the Big Bang not as a point, but as an impossibly dense, luminous lattice. Countless strands of light connect every point to every other point in a dazzling, three-dimensional spiderweb. These strands are the wormholes, the physical manifestation of the cosmic entanglement. Within this network, a quantum fluctuation occurring at one location could send a ripple through a wormhole and arrive at its destination not just elsewhere but elsewhere, influencing the very conditions that gave it birth. This perfect, self-referential loop of information traveling effortlessly through the wormhole web could have set the initial parameters for the universe, ensuring its stability and consistency from the very first moment. We are living in the expanded, cooled remnant of that once intimate connection, and the ghost of that primordial network might still be written into the quantum laws we are only now beginning to understand. A universe and its creator can be born together in a single, timeless moment of pure meaning. This is the theory of a causal parallel creation, drawing from the work of psychologist Carl Jung and physicist Wolfgang Pauli. They proposed the idea of synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that connects events without any chain of cause and effect. It is as if the universe itself is woven from these significant parallels. In this view, the universe and its first time traveler did not create one another in a linear sequence. They simply appeared together, two aspects of a single reality, forever bound by a profound and inexplicable correspondence. There was no first cause, only a spontaneous, symmetrical emergence. The time traveler was not an external force that shaped the cosmos, but its intrinsic counterpart, its hidden twin. Their existence is a single event seen from two different angles. Imagine a single, silent chord struck in the void, a vibration that contains both the question and its answer simultaneously. The universe is the physical expression of that chord, while the time traveler is its conscious intention. They are two sides of the same coin, one the body and the other the mind, born in a flash of a causal connection that defies all our standard logic. This relationship is not governed by physics as we know it, but by a deeper principle of symbolic resonance. The patterns in the spiral of a galaxy might mirror the neural pathways in the time traveler's mind, not because one caused the other, but because they are both expressions of the same underlying archetype. Visualize this not as an explosion, but as a dream. A vast, dark ocean lies perfectly still. From its depths, a brilliant, intricate nebula begins to swirl into being. At the very same instant, a single, luminous eye opens within the heart of the nebula. The eye does not create the nebula, nor does the nebula create the eye. They simply recognize each other, two halves of a whole finally connecting across the meaningless divide of before and after. Their simultaneous appearance is the universe's first and most profound synchronicity, a meaningful event that gave birth to causality itself. We are living inside the physical echo of that symbolic moment, and every meaningful coincidence we experience might be a faint ripple from that original, a causal dawn. Our sense of time's relentless forward march is governed by a single, powerful rule, the unstoppable increase of entropy, which is the natural progression from order to disorder. This is the thermodynamic arrow of time, the reason an ice cube melts in your drink but never spontaneously refreezes, the reason we remember the past but not the future. The ultimate source of this arrow has always been a profound mystery. Why did the universe begin in such an incredibly ordered, low-entropy state, a condition so exquisitely rare it is like finding a perfectly assembled watch in a junkyard? Theory 26 proposes a breathtaking answer. The pristine order of the Big Bang was not a lucky accident. It was engineered by the universe's first and most monumental act of time travel, a process that exported its own entropy, its inherent disorder, backward into the void. The cosmos effectively cleaned its room at the moment of birth by throwing all of its mess into the past. Imagine a child's bedroom in a state of perfect, almost impossible tidiness. Every toy is in its bin, every book on its shelf, the bed made with military precision. This room did not get this way by chance. The child, representing the nascent universe, gathered every single piece of clutter, every discarded sock and scattered crayon, and instead of putting them away, they shoved it all through a trapdoor in the floor that leads to yesterday. The room is spotless now because its mess now belongs to the past. On a cosmic scale, this is what may have happened. The immense disorder and chaos that should have been present at the beginning, the thermodynamic noise that would have rendered complex structures impossible, was somehow gathered up and shunted backward along the timeline. This act of temporal housekeeping created the low entropy starting point that allowed galaxies to form and life to eventually evolve. The fiery birth of the universe was not a chaotic explosion, but the moment a cosmic vacuum cleaner was switched on, sucking disorder out of the present and depositing it into the pre-Big Bang nothingness. We are living in the clean, orderly reality that resulted from that one-time expulsion of chaos. The reason time only moves forward, the reason we experience an irreversible flow from past to future, is because that is the direction the garbage was taken out. The arrow of time points forward because all the disorder was sent the other way. Faint whispers from the dawn of time are permanently etched across the sky. The cosmic microwave background radiation is the oldest light in the universe, a cool remnant of the Big Bang's fiery heat that fills every direction of space. For decades, scientists have seen its subtle temperature variations, the anisotropies, as the random seeds from which galaxies grew. But what if these patterns are not random at all? Our 27th theory suggests these faint ripples are a deliberate signature, a complex message left by the universe's first time traveler. It is a cosmic "I was here" carved into the very first permanent structure of reality. The traveler, whether a particle, a law, or a consciousness, arrived at the moment of creation and imprinted its presence onto the fabric of the newborn cosmos, a permanent memorial to its journey. This idea transforms the CMB from a simple baby picture of the universe into its foundational document, a stone tablet inscribed with the rules of existence. Efforts to decode this message are already underway. Cosmologists use powerful satellites to map the CMB's temperature fluctuations with incredible precision, creating a detailed chart of the entire sky. They then subject this map to the most rigorous statistical tests, searching for any deviation from pure randomness. They look for hidden symmetries, repeating geometric patterns, or correlations that seem to defy the standard model of inflation. Could there be a spiral hidden in the noise, or a sequence of hot and cold spots that corresponds to a fundamental mathematical constant like pi? Some researchers have even proposed searching for a form of cosmic code, a bitmap where the temperature differences translate into a binary sequence containing a universal message. Visualize the CMB map as a vast, mottled sphere of red, blue, and yellow blotches, the standard representation of hot and cold regions. Now, imagine zooming into one of these seemingly random patches. As we get closer, the pixels resolve not into noise, but into an intricate, swirling filigree of light, a structure of breathtaking complexity that looks unmistakably designed. Or perhaps the code is not in the shapes, but in the music of the spheres. The CMB can be broken down into a spectrum of frequencies, much like a musical chord. A single, anomalous note in this cosmic chord, a frequency that should not be there according to our best theories, could be the clearest possible signal of an intervention. Finding such a pattern would be the ultimate evidence that our universe is not a solitary accident, but a crafted reality with a message from its own origin waiting to be read. The act of watching something can, in fact, prevent it from changing at all. This bizarre quantum phenomenon is known as the quantum Zeno effect, where a system held under constant observation is frozen in its current state, like a watched pot that never boils. Now take this peculiar rule and project it onto the entire cosmos. Our 28th theory proposes that the universe was not born in a single flash, but was stabilized into existence by a continuous, unblinking gaze from its own future. In its first fleeting instant, the cosmos was not a solid reality, but a shimmering quantum probability wave, a flickering potentiality where existence and non-existence blurred together. It was a cosmic superposition, a state of both being and not being, threatening to collapse back into nothingness at any moment. Then the observation began. This was not a momentary glance, but a persistent, paradoxical loop of perception originating from the universe's own final state. The future was watching the past, and by watching it, it was holding the past in place, preventing it from fading away. The universe exists because it is perpetually witnessed by its own future self, a self-referential act of creation that has never ceased. Visualize the dawn of time as a screen of static, flickering wildly between blinding light and absolute darkness. For a moment, the image of a galaxy seems to form, only to dissolve back into chaotic noise. Then, a singular point of focus emerges from the future, a steady, unwavering eye. Where its gaze falls, the flickering slows. The static begins to coalesce, the light holding its form for longer and longer periods, until finally, the entire screen resolves into the stable, brilliant image of a spinning galaxy. This stabilization was the first moment of time, a moment sustained not by a force but by a perception. The entire cosmic timeline, from the first star to this very second, is perpetually frozen into solidity by the observation of its own completed story. We are living inside a reality that is constantly being saved from dissolution by a future that is always looking back, ensuring that the universe we remember is the one that continues to exist. A perfect symmetry is a beautiful but barren thing. In the universe's first moments, all the fundamental forces were one, a single, unified superforce. All particles were identical, and the cosmos was a featureless, undifferentiated sea of energy. It was a state of ultimate order, but also of ultimate simplicity, a realm where nothing could ever change or evolve. Then, in an event known as symmetry breaking, this perfect unity shattered. The single force splintered into the four we know today: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. The identical particles gained their unique identities and masses, becoming quarks, electrons, and neutrinos. This was the moment the universe gained its rich complexity, its potential for stars, planets, and life. But why did this happen? What instructed the cosmos to break its perfect symmetry in just the right way? The trigger may have been a message from the future. A single encoded signal could have traveled back to that primordial instant, carrying the precise instructions for how to break. This signal would have told the unified field which path to take, which forces to separate, and which particles to create. It was a cosmic recipe, delivered just in time to ensure the resulting universe would be stable and diverse. Without this temporal guidance, symmetry breaking could have been a chaotic, random process. The forces might have separated in a way that made atoms impossible, or the universe might have collapsed back on itself immediately. The signal ensured a specific, life-permitting outcome. Picture a perfectly smooth, mirrored sphere representing the universe in its state of perfect symmetry. It hangs in the void, flawless and static. Suddenly, a single point of data, a needle of pure information, strikes its surface. The moment it makes contact, intricate cracks radiate outward. The sphere does not explode but gracefully unfurls, its perfect symmetry blossoming into the magnificent, lopsided, and gloriously complex structure of galaxies, forces, and particles we inhabit. That first fracture was the universe learning how to become itself, guided by a whisper from its own destiny. The diversity of everything we see may be the direct result of a command issued from the end of time. The ultimate quest of physics is a set of equations so complete it would describe every particle and every force in a single, elegant framework. This is the theory of everything, the final theory. But what if this theory is not merely a description of the universe? What if the universe is the physical manifestation of the theory, proving its own consistency? This is the final, breathtaking recursion, where the cosmos becomes a logical argument that writes itself into existence. The theory requires the universe to exist in order to be true, and the universe exists because the theory is true. It is the most profound bootstrap paradox of all, a closed loop of pure logic where the conclusion actively ensures its own premise. The very first journey through time was not a physical voyage, but this act of logical self-creation, a mathematical necessity twisting back to guarantee its own starting point. Think of a brilliant mathematician trying to prove a fundamental theorem. They write a line of reasoning, but it only works if the final conclusion is assumed to be true from the very first line. In our reality, the mathematician, the proof, and the conclusion are all the same thing, the universe itself. It is a beautiful and deeply frustrating idea. The beauty lies in its perfect closure, a universe that is entirely self-explaining, needing no external creator or uncaused cause. The frustration is that such a structure is fundamentally unprovable from the outside because we are living inside the proof. We are the evidence the theory uses to validate itself. Visualize a vast, dark emptiness. From the void, a single, luminous mathematical equation begins to weave itself, not on a page but in 3 dimensions. The symbols and operators curl and spiral, wrapping around each other in an intricate dance. As they loop back and intersect, their points of contact ignite, blossoming into swirling galaxies and nebulae. The cosmos you see is not governed by the math, it is literally made from it, a physical proof forever demonstrating its own inevitability. We are not just studying the universe's laws, we are temporary expressions of a timeless, self-validating truth. We have journeyed through a labyrinth of 30 cosmic possibilities, from self-creating loops and holographic projections to messages from our own descendants and the echoes of a shattered paradox. Each theory, in its own audacious way, attempts to stitch the thread of time travel directly into the fabric of our origin story. While these remain speculations at the very frontier of knowledge, they represent a breathtaking testament to human imagination and our relentless drive to understand where we came from. They push the boundaries of physics and philosophy, blurring the line between science and myth, and challenging us to see the Big Bang not as a simple beginning, but as a moment of profound and perhaps recursive mystery. So we leave you with one final, deeply personal question to ponder. If you could send one message, one single piece of information, back to the very first second of the universe, what would it be? Would it be a word of encouragement, a warning, a mathematical constant, or perhaps just a simple hello? Let us know in the comments which of these 30 theories captured your imagination, and share your own ideas about the cosmos's greatest secret. And if you are hungry for more journeys to the edge of understanding, be sure to subscribe for our next deep dive into the mysteries of space and time.